Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming?
Our lives, as well as our families' lives, can change in an instant. We have an awesome responsibility and must protect it with all our might. It seems the accepted norm in society today, in some areas, is to be anti-police. It has become fashionable to find fault in anything we do. This is a storm we must weather. We must stand strong in the face of this adversity. Each and every day, I'm reminded of just how blessed we are to serve as law enforcement officers in Nassau County. But as I watch what is taking place across the rest of the country, I have grown sick and tired of hearing about how bad cops are, how cops need to be more like social workers, how cops need more training and reform, as well as calls to defund the police. Believe it or not, cops can't solve all of society's social issues, nor should they. Let's be honest. Throughout our entire lives, we are taught to follow the law, to not steal, to not rob, to not assault, to not murder, and to not resist arrest. But somehow, all of a sudden, it's not the fault of those who disregard the law, it's the cops' fault. It seems that accountability and consequences for one's actions is not taught in the home anymore. It is time to restore the American precept that each individual is accountable for his or her actions. We owe it to society, we owe it to our families, we owe it to each other, and most of all, we owe it to all of the law enforcement officers who gave their lives. Always remember that, and do not be afraid to remind your fellow officers of that also. Never forget the pride you felt the first time you pinned that badge on your chest. Never lose sight of why we chose this profession. We owe it to those officers that made the ultimate sacrifice. Because of the oath we take, we are ready to put ourselves in harm's way every day. It is part of our responsibility to the community that we serve. In the field behind me, there are 362 American flags, which represent the number of law enforcement officers in the United States who died in the line of duty in 2020. Unfortunately, we will be adding another plaque next year on our memorial wall. On February 3rd, 2021, the Nassau County Sheriff's Office lost Deputy Jack Gwines, who passed away due to complications from COVID-19 while working as a bailiff in the courthouse. This ceremony is to honor all those who gave all. Those who gave their lives in the line of duty are heroes. Today we honor all the true heroes who made the supreme sacrifice of their tomorrows so that we might live in peace today. But let us not forget that they are not the only ones who made a sacrifice. Their mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sons and daughters are left behind to carry on and find meaning in their tragedy. And today, some of those families are with us. Thank you for coming. To those we honor here today, we have made the ultimate sacrifice. The words thank you will never be enough, but we are so very thankful. To the families and friends of those we honor here today, we offer our eternal gratitude for sharing your loved one and their special gift to serve and protect with all of us. We extend to you our continued support and promise that their heroic and ultimate sacrifices will never be in vain. We will always remember. God bless all the men and women who work every day to keep us safe. Thank you.
Order! Arms! Parade! Wrist!
How sweet the sound that saved a wretch light.